What's happening, YouTube? This is Champion 2D Rob back again. How's everybody doing, guys? Now, this is going to be part 2 of my Black Box Mega Drive collection set. It's been a while. It's been a while. I apologize, guys. I think if you watched my last video, you'll know why there was a delay in making this video. But I promise you guys, you won't have to wait very long for the next one. As soon as I'm done finishing up this one, I'm gonna film my blue box set straight away, so you'll see that video not long after this one. Anyway, there's quite a few games here to get through. I've just got to quickly reiterate that I actually filmed this part video before, and then after I filmed it, I kind of realised I was missing a big chunk of games. So after what took about 2 days worth of spring cleaning, I eventually found the games, and I've now put them all together. I've cleaned them up. I've put them all together in a box right here. So I'm going to go through the remainder of my black box set, and yeah, then that will basically be it. And then we'll go on to my blue box set after that. So moving right on, let's start with some obvious ones here, and that is Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. These are both my original copies from when I was a kid. Sonic 1 came bundled in with my Mega Drive, and it was the reason why I got into Sega in the first place. It was the reason why I bought a Mega Drive. Back in '91, I was 10 years old. I saw Sonic 1 running. I was like at a sort of a kid's adventure playground, and there was a kid playing the Mega Drive on it there, and was playing Sonic, and I just absolutely fell in love with the game. And so this was the bundling pack that I got, and I put hours into this game. I absolutely loved this game. I can't tell you how much I played this game. I mean, yeah, just loved it. And of course, when they announced Sonic 2, I was on that straight away. And yeah, I loved it. Played it to bits. Also played it 2-player co-op as well. I did that with my friend. Yeah, love these games. Absolute classics. Okay, moving on. We've got sort of the two biggest fighting franchises of that time, and that is Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. Man, the memories I have of these games. I mean, not even so much of the games themselves, but how I kind of got these games. I mean, like one of my fondest sort of childhood memories was actually my mum taking me on my birthday to go buy Mortal Kombat. I think it was for my 12th birthday. I think it was my 12th or my 13th birthday. I can't quite remember. But she took me to the gaming shop to drop the note. So it was £50 at the time, if I remember correctly. It was £50 for this. And yeah, because I begged my mum to get Mortal Kombat, and I was not let down. It was amazing. I mean, as soon as I put in the code, so you can have the blood, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. Rinsed this game to death. Played it with my mates. Absolutely rinsed it. And of course, with Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, like one of my favourite fighting games of that time was Street Fighter 2. Played it continuously in the arcades. My friends that had Super Nintendos, this was the game I was usually playing at their house. So when they announced the Mega Drive version, I had to get it. It was just like a no-brainer. And I remember I begged and pleaded my mum to get me this game, because unlike this one, which was a birthday gift, this one I had to get, at a season. So it wasn't Christmas, it wasn't a birthday. I just had to find a way to convince my mum that this game meant so much to me. And bless her, she went out of her way and dropped 60 notes on this. 60 quid for this game. They were taking the piss. It's like 1992 money. It's 60 quid in 1992. It's insane. But yeah, so I was over the moon. Absolutely loved it. And I actually didn't get a 6-button pad right away for this. I actually I had to make do with a 3-button pad for a long time. But eventually I would get a third-party 6-button pad, because I just couldn't afford the original one, the official one. But yeah, great memories of both these games. Love them to bits. Okay, let's see here. Next game I've got here, Gynorg. Amazing shooter, amazing shooter. I remember I used to see this game a lot in the shops back in the day when I was a kid, and I did actually have friends at school recommend this game to me, but I never got around to picking it up until years later, and boy did I miss out, because this is a fantastic shoot 'em up. I don't know, it's just something about it. I just really like this game, and I love the visuals. If you're not sure what this game is like, it's a horizontal shooter, and it's just a very, very cool game. I like the music, I like the character designs. Just a really fun shooter. Next game I've got here is Maximum Carnage, and this was a game that I was after as a kid, man. I was so after this game. I mean, I was a big fan of the Maximum Carnage comic book storyline that was happening at the time, but I couldn't find this game in the shops. I could never find a game in the shops. It really bugged the crap out of me. I did rent it as a kid. I remember renting this game, and I just really did enjoy it. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up. Looking back on it, it's not the greatest of beat 'em ups, but it still plays decently enough. I think. Like, it definitely has the oomph of a side-scrolling beat 'em up. Like when you hit an enemy, like you can feel it. You feel the impact, which is, for me, is always a good sign of a beat 'em up. But ultimately, I think what lets this game down, it's sort of very samey levels, repetitive enemy characters. You know, it has a very boring overall game design, but the playability, I think, is quite good. I also think the difficulty in this game is a bit unfair as well. But ultimately, I'm very glad to have this game. I finally got it years later. Never owned it as a kid, but always wanted to. Next game I have here is Ranger X, and again, this is another game I used to see a lot in the shops back in the day, and I never picked it up because just looking on the back, I really wasn't quite sure what type of game it was. I mean, I kind of assumed it was like a run and gun type of game, which it is, but it's not really like a straightforward run and gun like, say, a Contra or a Gunstar Heroes, as you operate sort of like a mech and like a secondary vehicle as well, and you can actually control both like independently, and it's just quite a unique game, but visually very impressive. And yeah, I was very glad to get this game once I started collecting, before the price on it shot up, because yeah, I always kind of knew that this was going to be one of those games that would go up in value. It was a hidden gem at the time, and I think once more people started discovering it, of course, the price just went up. But yeah, really, really cool run and gun game. Next game I have here is Aladdin. And funnily enough, despite growing up with a Mega Drive, I actually never played this game back in the day. I actually was more familiar with the Super Nintendo version, and that was actually the one Super Nintendo game I completed as a kid. So I was very familiar with the Super Nintendo version, but never got to play this until much later on. And I know a lot of people favour this game over the Super Nintendo version, but I don't. I still prefer the Super Nintendo version. I think what lets this game down for me is two things. One, I don't like the level design. I think it's needlessly cryptic at times. Like, just the way they mix stuff from the foreground and the background, and you can't quite tell where to go. Like, I hate when games do that. Like, I just find that kind of annoying. And secondly, I kind of think the hit detection in this game is a little bit off as well. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't play as well for me. But I know a lot of people swear by this game. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is a bad game. I do think it's a fun game. But I just, in comparison to the Super Nintendo version, those are probably the things that kind of stood out to me the most. And that's why I find it difficult to see why people like this over that version. But anyway, moving on. I've got here James Bond 007 The Duel. This was actually a gift from J Cybersnake 7, so thank you again, mate. And this is basically like a side scroller. I mean, there's nothing that special about it. It's the sort of action side-scroller game. Okay, next one I have here is Outrun 2019, and this is actually one of my original games from when I was a kid. I did not own the original Outrun, but I did have this one, and I loved this game back then. I don't think it holds up now. It's one of those games that has aged, but I did enjoy it as a kid, and I put a lot of time into it. It was fun. It was fun for its day. Next game I have here is Two Crude Dudes. This was a game I've never played before as a kid. Bought this as a collector, and it's a fun sort of beat 'em up. You do sort of fight on one plane, but it is basically a beat 'em up, and I think it's all right. I've never really played the arcade game. I think I might have played it on MAME, but in terms as a series, I've never really played like any of the Crude Dudes series. Next game I have here is Alien 3, and again this is another title that I remember seeing a lot as a kid but never played it as a kid. When I finally did pick up my copy, really did enjoy this. It's a really fun run and gun type of title, and yeah, it's a good game. Next one I have here is Captain America and the Avengers, and again this is another copy from when I was a kid. It's a fun game. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up slash shoot 'em up. I don't think it's, from a gameplay standpoint, it's not the best. And I do think that a bit of the hit detection is a bit off. But this is actually the best version of the game. I actually prefer the Mega Drive version to the arcade version of the game. I mean, the arcade version looks a lot better and it has more detail to it. And also, they did sort of have to cut stuff down from the arcade from this one. But I don't know why, I still prefer sort of the gameplay from this game, but it's not a perfect game, but I did have fun with it. It's great in 2-player mode. Okay, next couple of games I have here is Green Dog, the beach surfer dude. Very run-of-the-mill platformer in my opinion, nothing special. Although I do remember it had a very big marketing campaign back in the day. Very, very 90s. And the next game I have here is Rolling Thunder 2. I was never familiar with the Rolling Thunder series. This was my first entry when I sort of became a collector. And I do actually enjoy it. I very much enjoy Rolling Thunder 2. I have gone back to play the original Rolling Thunder, and I do enjoy that game as well. Yeah, they're fun games. They're very much like Shinobi games. And I do enjoy them. And I also really like Rolling Thunder 3 as well. Okay, next couple of games I've got here is Gauntlet 4. Honestly, not my cup of tea. I'm not really a fan of the Gauntlet series. I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. And Flashback, this is a very, very cool game. Very different for its time. I believe, I don't think I ever got to play this as a kid. I think I might have played this as a kid. I can't quite remember. Because I remember playing the Prince of Persia games a lot. So I think I must have played this game, because I do remember thinking that it was a lot like Prince of Persia. And, you know, but I never really, if I'm honest, I've never really put the time into this game. To really, yeah, I mean, I've always kind of struggled with the controls of this game. But it's definitely been one of those games I've always wanted to sort of put the real time into and complete. Because, yeah, it just looks like a fun, interesting game. And not just Flashback, but games of its type. I've never really kind of stuck with them. I don't know. I always get to a point and I just can't beat it, and I just quit very easily. It's very frustrating, but it is one that I do want to go back and complete at some point. Okay, next couple of games I've got here is Truxton. Really good vertical shooter. Nothing more I can say really. It's just a really good vertical shooter. If you like your shoot 'em ups, then you need to get Truxton. Next game I've got here is Ghostbusters, and this is a really fun Ghostbusters game. One of the very, very few good Ghostbusters games. And yeah, it's just a cool sort of run and gun game. It was a bit of an odd choice that they kind of went for like a super deformed look for the Ghostbusters themselves. But I do enjoy this game. It has great gameplay, and I think it's quite underrated. So yeah, cool game. Okay, next game, and that's, I thought this was the Mega Drive one. I think I already did that one. No, I haven't. I'll just throw that aside. The Mega Drive version of RoboCop vs Terminator. Although the Master System version of RoboCop vs Terminator is a good game, but I'm going to say RoboCop vs Terminator for the Mega Drive. And again, this is one of my original copies from when I was a kid. And I absolutely loved this game. When I was a kid, I actually did used to read the RoboCop vs Terminator comics. I was just a massive fan of both properties. So when they released those comics, I remember spending time reading them. And when they announced this game, like, it was just a done deal. I had to get this game. Although weirdly enough, I wasn't much of a fan of the individual games, like the RoboCop games. I mean, I did like the original RoboCop game. I think I played that on a PC. But I never really got into the Terminator games. But this game was just fantastic. I loved it. Only thing I don't like about this game, though, is it's ridiculously hard. I think I could only get to I believe it might have been the 4th level. It's when you're in the OCP offices, and I can beat that level, but then after that, like, I can't get any further, to my mind. But there is a cheat code. There's a cheat code to get like 100 lives or something like that, and that's about the only way I ever completed this game. But it has great gameplay, and I found it to be very replayable. Next game I have here is Thunder Force 4. Really good shooter. This is another game I never played as a kid. Discovered it as an adult, and I find it to be a really good horizontal shooter. Definitely one of the better ones on the Mega Drive, in my opinion. Okay, next game I have here is Spider-Man, and this is a title that it's one of my original copies. Had this from when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed it. I will say though, it has dated badly. It's not aged very well, but at the time I really did enjoy this game. Although, like a lot of games back then, this has a really annoying difficulty spike. Once you get to a certain point in the game, like, the difficulty just spikes up, and it gets frustrating. But I remember, I think I got as far as Electro. Did I beat Electro? I'm not too sure. It was a long time ago. And I get to the point where I'm after Venom, and then that's basically where I die. But at the time, I did enjoy this as a kid, despite never being able to complete it. Next game I have here is Hellfire, another title I never played as a kid. Never knew about this game. Picked it up when I was collecting for it. It's a fun horizontal shooter, and I actually do enjoy it. It's one of those ones where you can actually shoot in all directions, and there's a bit of a strategic element to it as well. But yeah, I actually find this one to be quite fun. I do enjoy it. And the next one I have here is also a shooter, and that is Phelios. Really, really cool shooter, actually. This is a vertical shooter where you play as a guy on a Pegasus, and I really like it. I like the Greek mythology aspect to it. It's a very fun shooter. It's definitely one of my favourite shooters on the Mega Drive. Next couple of games I have here, and that is The Incredible Hulk. In my opinion, this is just a very, very average action side-scroller. Not worth picking up. And the next game I have here is Micro Machines Tournament Edition 96. I don't know if I ever played this game as a kid. I definitely played Micro Machines, but I can't remember if it was this one or if it was the original one. But I definitely played one of them as a kid and loved it. And I remember playing it in multiplayer with my friends. We spent a lot of time on it, and we had a lot of arguments as well, because people could be really cheap in this game and it used to be really frustrating, but it was still a lot of fun playing these titles, and I think they still hold up to this day. Next couple of games here, I've got Disney's The Jungle Book. Yeah, it's a fun, you know, action platformer title. There's nothing much I can really say about it. There's nothing that really stands out to me about this game, but I've always been a fan of the Jungle Book cartoon. It's probably my favorite of Disney cartoon. I used to watch it a lot as a kid and still enjoy it to this day. Yeah, but I never owned this game as a kid, but I just thought I'd pick it up to see what it's like. It's okay. It's a beautiful looking game, but I just don't think it's anything special. And the next game I have here is Havoc. And I can't remember, this game used to go by a different name. But yeah, this is actually quite a fun platformer title. Although I do feel that I think I prefer the Japanese version to this game, because the Japanese version I feel to be a little bit more forgiving. This one is, like I suppose a lot of Western releases, they kind of made it more difficult than it needed to be. But it is a very fun, colourful platform title. Maybe a little bit like Sonic, maybe. It definitely has that kind of forward momentum thing about it. But it's a fun title. It's definitely a fun title. Okay, and we've come to the last 3 games now of my black box set. So next one we have here is Mazing Wars, and yeah, this is a game that I did get to play as a kid. I actually got to play this game on a plane, on a flight. I remember playing this title. It's essentially a side-scrolling beat 'em up, but then it also has like 2D sort of fighting sections, because when it's in sort of like 2D side-scrolling mode, it's kind of like the camera's really zoomed out. But then when you get to a boss, the camera zooms in, so it becomes sort of like a game like Street Fighter, where it's like you against the boss, but like it plays like a fighting game. It's a cool beat 'em up, but honestly, I don't think it's as good as most side-scrolling beat 'em ups. I mean, there are definitely way better beat 'em ups on the Mega Drive, but it's fun nonetheless. Next game I have here is Atomic Runner, and I'll be honest with you, I never really spent that much time with this game. I played it for a bit, didn't really like it. In essence, it's a run and gun. It's a side-scrolling run and gun title, but I need to go back and play it. Honestly, I've not given it a lot of time. I think I played it for a bit, kind of got frustrated by it, so then I never went back, but I kind of need to do so. And finally, the last game here of my black box set, and that is Alicia Dragoon. And again, this is a title I remember seeing it a lot as a kid. Never played it as a kid, played it as an adult, and I think it's alright. It's an alright game. I don't really see why people revere this game so much. Personally, I just think it's fine. It's okay. You know, it's definitely visually very interesting. I've always kind of liked that kind of fantasy element to games, but it's not really one I go back to over and over again. So anyway guys, that is it. That is the end of my black box set. So next video will be my blue box set. So stay tuned for that, guys. And again, apologies for the wait, but it won't be a long one for the next one, I promise you. Anyway, until the next video, guys, take care. Bye-bye.